Welcome back. Let's start reading some more. It's Thursday today and Friday tomorrow. I'm going to make a video on my language, Danish, about Boeing Classic and Next Generation and the Max. But I need to read this before I do it. I'm a little bit sleepy today, but I'm sleepy every day. Probably I'll be sleepy every day rest of my life. So I have to we have to live with it. So I will be sleepy every day the next 20 years. But it's just how it is. Of course, I never sleep enough in the night. I cannot do that because I cannot go to bed 10 p.m. or 11. Then I will wake up 2 a.m. in the night or 3 a.m. maybe. Let's read this.
Boeing 737 MAX. The Boeing 737 MAX is the fourth generation of the Boeing 737, a narrow-body airliner manufactured by Boeing Commercial Airplanes, a division of American company Boeing. It succeeds the Boeing 737 Next Generation, ING, and competes with the Airbus A320neo family. The new series was announced in August 2011. It took its maiden flight in January 2016 and was certified by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, in March 2017. The first delivery was a MAX 8 in May 2017 to Malindo Air, with which it commenced service in May 2017. The 737 MAX is based on earlier 737 designs, with more efficient CFM International LEAP engines, aerodynamic changes including distinctive split-tip winglets, and airframe modifications. The 737 MAX series has been offered in 4 variants, with 138 to 204 seats in typical 2-class configuration, and a range of 3,300 to 3,850 nautical miles, mi. 6,110 to 7,130 kilometers, 3,800 to 4,430 mi. The 737 MAX 7, MAX 8, and MAX 9 are intended to replace the 737 to 700, -800, and -900 respectively, and a further stretched 737 MAX 10 is available. However, as of February 2024, the MAX 7 and MAX 10 have not been certified, with the FAA declining to provide a timetable for approval. As of March 2024, the 737 MAX has 4,813 unfilled orders and 1,486 deliveries. The 737 MAX suffered 2 fatal crashes, Lion Air Flight 610 in late 2018 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 in early 2019, in which 346 people died. Contributing to the accidents was the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS, which activated unexpectedly due to erroneous angle of attack data, and remained active because of pilot error caused by inadequate training. The aircraft was subsequently grounded worldwide from March 2019 to November 2020, with the FAA garnering criticism for being the last major authority to ground it. Investigations found Boeing did not fully inform operators about MACUS and found shortcomings in the FAA's certification process for the aircraft. The accidents and grounding cost Boeing an estimated $20 billion in fines, compensation and legal fees as of 2020, with indirect losses of more than $60 billion from 1,200 cancelled orders. In 2021, Boeing paid $2.5 billion in penalties and compensation to settle the DOJ's fraud conspiracy case against the company. Further investigations revealed the FAA and Boeing had colluded on recertification test flights and attempted to cover up important information, and that the FAA had retaliated against whistleblowers. The FAA cleared the aircraft to return to service on the 18th of November, 2020, subject to mandated design and training changes. Canadian and European authorities followed in late January 2021. By December 2021, when Chinese authorities lifted their grounding, 180 of 195 countries had cleared the 737 MAX to return to service. In January 2024, the door plug blew out at an unused emergency exit during Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 during the climb, causing an uncontrolled decompression of the aircraft. The FAA immediately mandated a grounding and inspections of all 737 MAX 9 with a similar configuration. Affected aircraft were returned to service starting at the end of that month. The investigation found the plug was not fully bolted into place during production. A subsequent FAA audit found many problems in the production process. Development, edit. Background, edit. In 2006, Boeing started considering the replacement of the 737 with a clean sheet design that could follow the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. In June 2010, a decision on this replacement was postponed until 2011. On the 1st of December 2010, Boeing's competitor, Airbus, launched the Airbus A320neo family to improve fuel economy and operating efficiency with new engines, the LEAP from CFM International and the PW1000G from Pratt & Whitney. In February 2011, Boeing CEO Jim McNerney said, "We're going to do a new airplane." At the time, the company had been developing a new aircraft to replace the 737 as part of its Yellowstone project. In March 2011, Boeing Commercial Airplanes President James Alborf told participants of a trade meeting that the company was not sure about a 737 re-engine, as Boeing CFO James Abell had said at an investor conference the same month. The Airbus A320neo gathered 667 commitments at the June 2011 Paris Air Show, bringing its order backlog to 1,029 units, setting an order record for a new commercial airliner. On the 20th of July 2011, American Airlines announced an order for 460 narrow-body jets including 130 A320ceo. Current engine option, 130 A320neo, 100 737ing, and intended to order 100 re-engined 737s with CFM LEAP if Boeing pursued the project. The order broke Boeing's long-time monopoly with American. Program launch, edit. Faced with the news of record orders for Airbus and the defection of a long-time loyal customer, on the 30th of August, 2011, Boeing's board of directors approved the launch of the re-engined 737, expecting a 4% lower fuel burn than the Airbus A320neo. Studies for additional drag reduction were performed during 2011, including revised tail cone, natural laminar flow nacelle, and hybrid laminar flow vertical stabilizer. To focus on the re-engine project, Boeing abandoned the development of a new design under its Yellowstone project. Boeing expected the 737 MAX to meet or exceed the range of the Airbus A320neo. Firm configuration for the 737 MAX was scheduled for 2013. In March 2010, the estimated cost to re-engine the 737, according to Mike Bear, Boeing Commercial Airplanes Vice President of Business Strategy and Marketing, would be $23 billion, including the CFM engine development. During Boeing's Q2 2011 earnings call, CFO James Bell said the development cost for the airframe only would be 10–15% of the cost of a new program, which was estimated at $10–12 billion at the time. Bernstein Research predicted in January 2012 that this cost would be twice that of the A320neo. The MAX development cost could have been well over the internal target of $2 billion, and closer to $4 billion. Fuel consumption is reduced by 14% from the 737ing. Southwest Airlines was signed up as the launch customer in 2011. In November 2014, McNerney said the 737 would be replaced by a new airplane by 2030, probably using composite materials, that would be slightly bigger and have new engines but would retain the 737's general configuration. Boeing talked about developing a clean sheet aircraft to replace the 737. The conceived aircraft was to have a fuselage similar to the 737 though slightly larger, and would make use of the advanced composite technology developed for the 787 Dreamliner. Boeing also considered a parallel development along with the 757 replacement, similar to the development of the 757 and 767 in the 1970s. Production, edit. On the 13th of August, 2015, the first 737 MAX fuselage completed assembly at Spirit AeroSystems in Wichita, Kansas, for a test aircraft that would eventually be delivered to launch customer Southwest Airlines. On the 8th of December, 2015, the first 737 MAX, a MAX 8 named Spirit of Renton, was rolled out at the Boeing Renton factory. Because GKN could not produce the titanium honeycomb inner walls for the thrust reversers quickly enough, Boeing switched to a composite part produced by Spirit to deliver 47 MAXes per month in 2017. Spirit supplies 69% of the 737 airframe, including the fuselage, thrust reverser, engine pylons, nacelles, and wing leading edges. A new spar assembly line with robotic drilling machines was expected to increase throughput by 33%. The electro-impact automated panel assembly line sped up the wing lower skin assembly by 35%. Boeing planned to increase its 737 MAX monthly production rate from 42 planes in 2017 to 57 planes by 2019. The new spar assembly line is designed by Electro-Impact. Electro-Impact has also installed fully automated riveting machines and tooling to fasten stringers to the wing skin. The rate increase strained the production, and by August 2018, over 40 unfinished jets were parked in Renton, awaiting parts for engine installation, as CFM engines and Spirit fuselages were delivered late. After parked airplanes peaked at 53 at the beginning of September, Boeing reduced this by 9 the following month, as deliveries rose to 61 from 29 in July and 48 in August. On the 23rd of September, 2015, Boeing announced a collaboration with Comac to build a completion and delivery facility for the 737 in Jiaxing, China, the first outside the United States. This facility initially handles interior finishing only, but will subsequently be expanded to include paintwork. The first aircraft was delivered from the facility to Air China on the 15th of December, 2018. The largest part of the supplier's cost are the aerostructures at $10-12 million, 35 to 34% of the $28.5-35 million total, followed by the engines at $7-9 million, 25 to 26%, systems and interiors at $5-6 million each, 18 to 17%, then avionics at $1.52 million, 5 to 6%. Flight testing and certification, edit. Main article, Boeing 737 MAX certification. The 737 MAX gained its airworthiness approval based on the 737 Legacy Series, first approved on the 15th of December, 1967, as a supplemental type certificate, STC, in lieu of a new design approval. The MAX's first flight took place on the 29th of January, 2016, at Renton Municipal Airport, nearly 49 years after the maiden flight of the original 737-100, on the 9th of April, 1967. The first MAX 8-1001 was used for aerodynamic trials, flutter testing, stability and control, and takeoff performance data verification, before it was modified for an operator and delivered. 1002 was used for performance and engine testing, climb and landing performance, crosswind, noise, cold weather, high altitude, fuel burn and water ingestion. Aircraft systems including autoland were tested with 1003. 1004, with an airliner layout, flew function and reliability certification for 300 hours with a light flight test instrumentation. The 737 MAX 8 gained FAA certification on the 8th of March, 2017, and in the same month was approved by the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, on the 27th of March, 2017. After completing 2,000 test flight hours and 180-minute ETOPS testing requiring 3,000 simulated flight cycles in April 2017, CFM International notified Boeing of a possible manufacturing quality issue with low-pressure turbine, LPT, discs in LEAP 1B engines. Boeing suspended 737 MAX flights on May 4, and resumed flights on the 12th of May. During the certification process, the FAA delegated many evaluations to Boeing, allowing the manufacturer to review their own product. It was widely reported that Boeing pushed to expedite approval of the 737 MAX to compete with the Airbus A320neo, which hit the market 9 months ahead of Boeing's model. Entry into service, edit. The first delivery was a MAX 8, handed over to Malindo Air, a subsidiary of Lion Air, on the 16th of May, 2017. It entered service on the 22nd of May. Norwegian Air International was the second airline to put a 737 MAX into service, when it performed its first transatlantic flight with a MAX 8 named Sir Freddie Laker on the 15th of July, 2017. Between Edinburgh Airport in Scotland and Bradley International Airport in the U.S. state of Connecticut. Boeing aimed for 737 MAX to match the 99.7% dispatch reliability of the 737 Next Generation, Inc. Southwest Airlines, the launch customer, took delivery of its first 737 MAX on the 29th of August, 2017. Boeing planned to deliver at least 50 to 75 aircraft in 2017, 10-15% of the more than 500 737s to be delivered in the year. Grounding and recertification, edit. Main article, Boeing 737 MAX groundings. The 737 MAX was grounded after two fatal crashes, Lion Air Flight 610 on the 29th of October, 2018, and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 on the 10th of March, 2019, in which a total of 346 people died. The day following the second crash, China became the first air authority to ground the aircraft, followed the next day by Australia, the European Union, India, Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, and Turkey. The United States Federal Aviation Administration was one of the last to ground the aircraft, defending against groundings by issuing a continued airworthiness notice to operators on the 11th of March, garnering criticism before finally grounding it on the 13th of March, 2019. Contributing to the accidents was the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS, which activated unexpectedly due to erroneous angle of attack data, and inadequate pilot training. Investigations found Boeing did not fully inform operators about MCAS and found shortcomings in the FAA's certification process for the aircraft. In the 20 months the aircraft was grounded, Boeing redesigned the computer architecture that supported the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, MCAS. As initially designed, data from just one of the aircraft's two angle of attack, AOA, sensors was fed into MCAS. When erroneous data from that sensor was fed into flight computers, it caused repeated uncommanded activation of MCAS, which applied nose-down trim to the horizontal stabilizer. The accident investigations revealed that the AOA sensor on Lion Air Flight 610 was miscalibrated, and the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 sensor was likely damaged by a bird strike during takeoff. Boeing was criticized for using data from just one of the two sensors, representing a single point of failure on a flight control system. Before the crash of Lion Air Flight 610, pilots were not informed by Boeing of the existence of MCAS and were not required to undergo simulator training on the difference between the 737 MAX and earlier 737 versions. Boeing and the FAA would later require simulator training to demonstrate an MCAS activation to pilots. The final report by the National Transportation Safety Committee of Indonesia into the Lion Air crash criticized Boeing's design and the FAA's certification process for the MCAS flight control system and said the issues were compounded by maintenance issues and lapses by Lion Air's maintenance crews and its pilots, as well as Xtra Aerospace, a US-based company that supplied Lion Air with a replacement AOA sensor that was likely miscalibrated. In the crash of Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board and France's Bureau of Inquiry and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety identified pilot error and inadequate training by Ethiopian Airlines as critical contributing factors to the crash. Boeing faced legal and financial consequences, as no deliveries of the MAX could be made while the aircraft was grounded, and airlines cancelled more orders than Boeing produced during this period. Boeing found foreign object debris in the fuel tanks of 35 of 50 grounded 737 MAX aircraft that were inspected and had to check the remainder of the 400 undelivered planes. The FAA curtailed Boeing's delegated authority and invited global aviation stakeholders to comment on pending changes to the aircraft and to pilot training. The FAA lifted its grounding order in 2020. All aircraft must be repaired to comply with various airworthiness directives. After being charged with fraud in connection of both crashes of the 737 MAX, Boeing settled by paying over $2.5 billion in penalties and compensation, a criminal monetary penalty of $243.6 million, $1.77 billion in damages to airline customers, and $500 million to a fund for the families of crash victims. Production slowdown and suspension, edit. From mid-April 2019, Boeing announced that it was temporarily cutting production of the 737 aircraft from 52 per month to 42 amid the 737 MAX groundings. Production of the LEAP 1B engine continued at an unchanged rate, enabling CFM to catch up its backlog within a few weeks. As the 737 MAX recertification moved into 2020, Boeing suspended production from January to conserve funds and prioritize stored aircraft delivery. The 737 MAX program was the company's largest source of profit. Around 80% of the 737 production costs involve payments to parts suppliers, which may be as low as $10 million per plane. After the announcement, Moody's cut Boeing's debt ratings in December, citing the rising costs due to the grounding and the production halt, including financial support to suppliers and compensation to airlines and lessors, which could lower the program's margins and cash generation for years. The rating agency also warned that the production halt would have wide and harmful impact to the whole aerospace and defense supply chain, and the ramp-up would be slower than previously anticipated. CFM International reduced production of the LEAP 1B for the 737 MAX, in favor of the LEAP 1A for the Airbus A320neo, but was prepared to meet demand for both aircraft. Boeing did not publicly say how long the suspension would last. The last pre-suspension fuselages entered final assembly in early January 2020. Boeing was reported to internally expect production to be halted for at least 60 days. Industry observers began to question if Boeing's projection of record production rate of 57 per month would ever be reached. In early April, the COVID-19 pandemic led Boeing to shut down its other airliner production lines and further delayed recertification of the MAX. Recertification and return to service, edit. In early January 2020, an issue was discovered in the MAX software update, which impacted its recertification effort. As of mid-January, Boeing expected the MAX to return to service by mid-2020. In late April, following the COVID-19 pandemic, Boeing then hoped to win regulatory approval by August 2020. Between the 29th of June and July 1st, the FAA and Boeing conducted a series of recertification test flights. Transport Canada and EASA each concluded their own independent recertification flights in late August and early September. On the 18th of November, the FAA announced that the MAX had been cleared to return to service. Before individual aircraft could resume service, repairs were required as set out in an airworthiness directive from the FAA. Airline training programs also required approval. On December 3rd, American Airlines made a demonstration flight for journalists to explain the FAA-required modifications, to regain public trust. The first airline to resume regular passenger service was Brazilian low-cost Gol on December 9th. The first in the United States was American Airlines on the 29th of December. Transport Canada and EASA both cleared the MAX in late January 2021, subject to additional requirements. Other regulators worldwide progressively ungrounded the aircraft, including those in the UAE, Australia, Kenya, and Brazil. The Indian Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, rescinded its ban on MAX airplanes in late August on the condition that they meet the requirements set by the FAA and EASA. China's civil aviation regulator, CAAC, cleared the 94 jets stored by 11 carriers in China to fly again in December 2021. Deliveries of Chinese airplanes stored by Boeing is expected to resume in 4Q 2023. However, EASA forbade airlines from performing RNPR approaches with the MAX. In response to the recertification, some booking sites introduced tools allowing travelers to filter results to avoid flying on the type.